From WBAY TV, coverage you can count on. Action 2 News this morning starts now.
Good morning. We're waking up to a mess Mother Nature has left behind in parts of northeast Wisconsin after severe storms pushed through.
Did you see that? Did you get that, Susan?
I did.
Did you get that?
This video is from Susan McWan from Lake Tomahawk as the storm entered her area. And we're getting pictures overnight from Joe Moore as well of a huge elm tree fallen in his yard, just barely missing his home. Then on Day Street near Webster Avenue here in Green Bay, the storms brought heavy rain and severe winds causing widespread damage and power outages for many places across northeast Wisconsin.
Sounded like things hitting the house. And then she opened the door and there was this big tree here.
Terry from the town of Oconto says the storm came quickly with strong winds that sounded like they were hitting her home sideways. Many people will be waking up to lots of cleanup today as Wisconsin Public Service has been dealing with widespread outages of downed power lines and trees blocking roads. Wisconsin Public Service, of course, they're very busy reporting more than 50,000 power outages last night, as you could see here. Crews have been out, but more storms are expected later.
Brittany, you can't even get through this road because of multiple fallen trees here. And I am on McDonald Road, which is right next to Memorial Park, and multiple homes along this street have suffered significant damage because of the storm. But it's hard to even see some of that damage because these trees are so large, it's hard to even see the homes that are beyond them. But this isn't the only street in Appleton that has a lot of cleaning up to do.
I heard the wind. I ran to the basement and then heard a thunderous boom.
Once the storm passed, Marlis Reed stepped outside to see what happened to her home of 11 years.
It's devastating. It's like a war zone.
In addition to the large trees that fell in her front yard, 2 trees in the back severed her roof.
I understand it's going to be a long time probably before we get this all cleaned up.
It'll take a while because there are downed trees all across the Appleton and Fox Valley area, but fallen trees aren't the only problem. Downed power lines are causing outages all across the area. Appleton Mayor Tim Hanna says they've been notifying We Energies of damaged power lines, like the one off Highway 41 at the Ballard Road exit.
That's a pretty dangerous situation.
It's not how people living in Wrightstown expected to spend a Saturday afternoon.
We've got multiple homes throughout the village with damage due to trees on homes, trees against homes.
This home on Main Street making it through the storm with a near miss, seeing little damage after this tree was completely ripped up at the roots.
Right now it's what do we need to get done to minimally get people basic services back and then go from there.
The storms also damaged power lines, leaving much of the village without power.
Next thing we knew, heard a big explosion, then loud humming throughout our house, and looked out the basement window and just saw flames shooting probably about 3-4 feet in the air and just pulsing with every hum.
In this pile of sticks and branches Michael picked up in the aftermath of the storm, you'll find a lot of branches like this one, black and charred from being set on fire before the transformer blew.
With power lines laying on the pavement, the Wrightstown Fire Department spent the afternoon directing traffic while responding to other calls for help.
The biggest thing is just relax and be patient. It's going to take a little while.
We were planning on taking down, but now we don't have to.
Patty Messa and her husband Albert are picking up what's left of their front and backyard in the town of Mountain.
We haven't even gotten that part. We have a shed down there that we can't even find.
A severe storm knocked down trees and power lines, including the ones surrounding their home.
I think I said, oh my God, about 150 times.
Take a look at this video. Thousands of trees just a block away from the Messa's home, all lying in the street.
This is just crazy.
And in the town of Mountain, you'll find this tree that was ripped in half. It fell into the power lines and the homeowner's car. She says she's been without power now for hours.
The whole road was blocked. So we had to cut our way through to get out there.
Crews with the Oconto County Highway Department cleaning up debris on the roads.
There's a lot of really nice people out here, so this is great.
At Village Hall in Wrightstown, you'll find residents like Bill Joe Flott taking a break from the summer heat after losing power from the storms.
Yesterday I spent quite a bit of time trying see if I could hunt down a generator. No luck.
Troflot and other residents in the village have been without power for 24 hours, and city officials don't know how soon they'll get it back.
Probably going to be a day or two, just because there's so much work that has to be done, so many poles that have to be redone, so much new lines that have to get strung. So it's a big project out there. There's a lot of power lines down, trees, poles snapped, just kind of a lot of devastation, I guess, as far as our utilities go. So
Joe Flott says nights without power are pretty hard for him.
I have sleep apnea, and so I slept without my CPAP machine last night. So some people know how that goes. It doesn't go real well.
But he says he is managing. For now, the village is letting residents use electricity at the village hall with a refrigerated trailer to keep their food from spoiling.
I guess I just didn't realize how strong the winds were.
Outagamie County is feeling the impact of the severe weather as well.
No electricity. It was difficult finding ice. Festival had refurbished their ice.
Red Cross opened an emergency center for those without power.
I was able to buy a 400 lumen light, flashlight that's rechargeable, and I'm charging it here in all my devices and my extra battery.
This has been the worst outages they've seen in at least 20 years.
For some customers, because of the extent of the damage and the severity of these storms, there will be outages and customers that experience an outage for multiple days.
As of early Sunday evening, more than 100,000 people are without power between WE Energies and WPS customers.
We've been working nonstop. We've been able to make some progress today. We've had hundreds of crews out today.
WE Energies and WPS say more than 100,000 people have had their power restored, but there's still a ways to go. However, crews will be working around the clock for however long it takes to make sure everyone gets their power back.
So the first tornado touchdown just on the southwest side of New London. It's been preliminarily rated as an EF1. There were numerous power poles snapped. Damage reported to siding and roofs along the path of this storm. It touched down at around 11:05 in the morning. The storm then progressed to the east and got into western Outagamie County as well. An EF1 tornado touching down here in western Outagamie County. Again, damage reported for home sidings, and a number of trees and power poles were snapped with this one. Just a few minutes after that, touchdown an EF0 tornado on the ground with some partial roof and siding loss. A power pole snapped here just northwest of Grand Chute. And then the final tornado that we've had confirmed so far, an EF0. This was right along the Outagamie-Brown County line, just southwest of Wrightstown, and that blew a roof off of a barn. There have been a number, though, of widespread wind damage reports. This is the map of Friday and Saturday of those strong winds that came through, 60 to 80 mile per hour winds widespread, and that is, of course, creating the numerous power outages that we are still dealing with.
We have been getting a lot of calls from you asking to go to Oconto and Langlade counties because there was a lot of damage there. So today we did just that. This is new video from Mountain in Oconto County. You can see trees are down throughout the area. National Weather Service says the damage in Oconto and Langlade counties was not caused by a tornado, but an event called a macroburst. Our experts in Storm Center 2 will explain what that is in just a moment.
Because this camp is loved by so many, there are dozens of people pitching in to help put it back together. Since the weekend, people have been helping saw down trees and clear paths. Max Clark, the camp's executive director, says the storms Friday into Saturday hit the camp hard, with straight-line winds knocking down hundreds of trees, and although not as bad, Saturday's storms made things even worse. We drove around the camp and saw damage to some of the structures as well. Despite not being able to host camp for the kids right now, the group is staying positive.
We got a couple rules here. Rule number one is only positive talk. So it's the same core values that we're talking about. We just don't have kids here, but we're still going to learn about caring, honesty, respect, responsibility. It's just we're doing it different. And I tell everybody, you just say one tree at a time. You know, one tree at a time, one tree at a time.
As we've said, the National Weather Service has confirmed a tornado did not cause the damage in Oconto and Langlade counties. Instead, it was caused by what's called a macroburst. Storm Center 2 Chief Meteorologist Steve Balon explains what that is.
We're cleaning up a lot of damage in Oconto and Langlade counties from powerful thunderstorms Friday night. Lots of trees are down. A lot of folks up there are saying this was caused by a tornado. That's not true. The damage Friday night in Oconto and Langlade counties was caused by a macroburst. Here's what it is. This is our storm setup. Warm, moist air, feeding up into the cumulonimbus cloud, an updraft current of air. And eventually, that updraft of air slows down and weakens. You get rain, hail, and cold air building aloft in the thunderstorm. And eventually, that cold, dense air comes crashing back down to earth in a downburst, a strong surge of air from the storm. And when it hits the ground, it spreads out in all directions, especially ahead of the storm because of the storm's forward momentum. Now, as this downburst crashes along the ground, if this downburst is wider than 2.5 miles, then it's called a macroburst. And that was the case Friday night in Oconto and Langley counties. If it's less than 2.5 miles, it's considered a microburst. And when the winds hit the ground and come down and move forward at 100 miles an hour, you see the damage that we have right now in the North Woods.
It's so beautiful, and now it's, I don't know what you call it. It's devastating.
Carrie Orr still in disbelief after rushing home in her convertible Friday night.
I was driving home and I was going 90 miles an hour to get here because I knew I was in something weird.
Making it just in time to take cover.
But I could hear everything getting hit out here, but I didn't know what was going on.
Or getting her first look at the damage using a flashlight Friday night.
And this is what we found, and I'm just glad I wasn't in that car.
This tree snapping, landing directly on top of it. Others crushing a shed, littering her property.
Because I was really concerned for my neighbors, so I knew what we had. And then to look and go, oh my goodness, it didn't even hit them. Good, you know, but I just couldn't believe. I couldn't believe like it just went right here.
Her neighbor Cindy thinking the same thing.
We just had 4 or 5 trees down, but they have damage to everything in their yard. And their donkeys, they had to quick fix the fence in the rain to keep the donkeys in. They lost 95% of their trees, either uprooted or snapped.
We've been just cutting up the wood and hauling it. Just trying to get it all cleaned up.
Mishicot, another town hit hard by this weekend's storms. Some still without power and others left with a mess to clean up.
At the end, I thought it was going to clear up, and then when we got a big thud, and it was the tree coming down on the house.
It's a situation like this that's a top priority for Chris Lewis and his tree removal business.
We'll be in Mishicot tomorrow and Wednesday. And then after that, I got to look and see who has the greatest need after that.
Many people right now still cleaning up from the storm. They're looking to make repairs. However, the Better Business Bureau says it's also the perfect opportunity for scammers. In a Target 2 consumer alert, Jason Zimmerman explains what people should be on alert for.
This street here in Kimberly is among the hardest hit areas by the storm here in the Fox Valley. Take a look at the tree right behind me in the front yard. It is huge and it is down on top of the roof of this house. I spoke to the woman who lives here. She rents, but obviously the landlord will be among the many right now looking to make significant repairs. In Rachel Smith's neighborhood, there's constant activity among people cleaning up and a visible demand for contractors.
We have some trees down in the back as well. They fell on the fence. But the house itself, just some of the shingles are going to have to be fixed. There's no leaking inside the house right now.
Which is why the Better Business Bureau is warning people to be on alert for scams, which tend to be a problem after events like this.
Just be careful out there. Take your time to make sure that you hire a qualified contractor.
Susan Box says many neighborhoods that suffer bad damage often get flooded with out-of-town contractors who chase storms.
They won't be licensed. They're probably using substandard materials. We just want to warn people to be careful of those, to get estimates first, check out the company before you hire them.
Other scams play off power outages. Kakana Utilities posted online they've received complaints from customers saying a caller claimed to be from We Energies and wanted banking or credit card information to prevent disconnection.
Certainly, if they receive a call threatening their service to be disconnected within a short amount of time frame, unless they make an immediate payment, that's a warning sign of a scam.
Because there is so much damage, it will take weeks to clean all of this up, and that means the potential for scams will linger as well. Reporting in Kimberly, Jason Zimmerman, Action 2 News.